OVO Sound Radio.
What's up, everybody? My name is Oliver. This is OVO Sound Radio, episode 38, broadcasting live from Toronto, Canada, at State of the Art Studios. I want to start by thanking everybody for tuning in. Today, I'm pleased to unveil a very special, very rare interview with Drake, conducted by none other than the legendary DJ Semtex last week in London. Without further ado, let's get into this. This is the More Life interview with Semtex and Drake on OVO Sound Radio, episode 38.
You know what? You know when we hooked up years ago, like you were supposed to come on the show, something happened, I don't know, and then it was like, oh yeah, we'll connect the day after, and then we did an interview in Hyde Park, legendary interview, classic, like
nostalgia.
Some people tried to imitate, and I pulled it off. It was cool, and I said, it feels like you're gonna make history, and you're making history, and it's been a crazy journey, like in the last 7 years.
Yeah, it's been wild. I was watching. That's kind of like how we ended up here. When I got here, I was just like kind of in my room, just trying to find like my like lineage of coming to London, and just trying to figure out like where it all started. And I just watched that Hyde Park interview, and I'm watching this kid. It's me, but I mean, to me, it's a kid that just like is just trying his hardest to. Answer questions in the best way possible. And, just the fact that we were just walking around as like me, you, and a microphone and a camera. And I was like, man, I should hit Semtex up, man. We should talk again. Because I just listened to the conversation. We had a good conversation. I felt like we covered a wide spectrum of things. And I think it's been a long time since somebody's been able to, sit down and do that with me. So that's how we're here.
How does it feel to go from, because you was doing mixtapes before that, but that was the mixtape that really broke you. Mm-hmm. And shout out to Two Dope Boys and Now Right, because I discovered you through those websites. Right. And they were like, yo, this guy Drake, and da-da-da-da-da. And before that, Lil Wayne mentioned you in an interview, but like when someone says a list of names, you don't really clock. But,
right.
In the back of those sites, like, I was getting the first couple of joints from there, and I was blazing. I was like, yo, this is sick. I need to be blazing this. Mm-hmm. And then... yeah, and it's just grown from there, and you've been nonstop. Like it's crazy. Like,
yeah, I mean that was an amazing time for all of us. I mean we
still got day ones.
Still doing it with the same people, and it was just we always like our landmark for that project is 15 Fort York, which was 40 in Oliver's apartment, and we really started that project there, and then it moved to the Beverly Hills Hotel in LA when we were just first kind of getting around Wayne. And I know Wayne mentioned me in the interview, but the real turning point for me was like when Wayne went on stage at the MTV Awards and rapped one of the verses for Money to Blow instead of doing his own verse. He just like impromptu rapped one of my verses. And at that time, people are like, yo, that's like, people from back home who really didn't, I mean, it was just a tough thing to believe. Like, I know he says he's over there, but is he gonna come home with a Lil Wayne record? Is this gonna really happen? Like, at that time, people were like, okay, he just rapped Drake songs. Like, if he gets a Wayne record, this is out of here. And that was like when I was able to come back off those trips with Ransom. I went back home with Ransom, which was the first time I had ever got a Lil Wayne verse. And, from there, I had a bunch of songs that I had recorded at the studio called Hot Beats. And Wayne just got on all of them, like Stunt Hard and Forever was one of them, early. And then we just, we started crafting that first project and using the input of two people who, again, I still work with to this day, and my music wouldn't be what it is without them. That's Oliver and 40, which, it's funny, we're sitting here talking, and they're back in Toronto executive producing More Life. Oliver's executive producing it, and 40's obviously always involved, but kind of just a full circle moment for us, because Oliver had so much input on So Far Gone, so I was like, man, it'd be nice to do something, me and you again. So I gave him that task. So he's at home piecing it together. But yes, it was a great start, and from there it just became a wild journey that I guess we'll talk about.
A lot to talk about. More talk. And,
More talk, yeah.
And then, seems as though we're right at the beginning, we're talking about Lil Wayne and so forth. I was in Amsterdam and Lil Wayne was like, yo, I'm about to do this thing with Young Money. We've got all these guys like J Mills, Good and Nicki Minaj, and this kid from the Grassy High, like, yo, he's crazy, da 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 da.
Yeah.
And because we didn't get the Grassy High in the UK, I was like, oh, okay. And he says, but yo, he's been writing on the Detox. So I was like, wow, because that was like the mythical album. And, you know, Dr. Dre, Kraft and the Detox, like, you got to be about your business to be involved in that or to be in the studio. How did you end up from doing a TV show to working with Dr. Dre, like writing for him on the Detox? Taking it back.
Yeah, it's taking it back, yeah. I'm actually usually not good with these taking it back moments, but I remember this one vividly. But yeah, I was on the show, and while I was on the show, I started getting less and less, you know, character time because of the fact that everybody was taking a notice to just the fact that I was more focused on music. And at the time, I actually had a studio that was right by the film studio for Degrassi. So I ended up working out a deal with like the after hours staff where I would leave work, go home, get my stuff, which was like, you know, Degrassi was all the way in the East End, which is like Scarborough. That's like a place, like an area of our city. I'd go home all the way back to the city, get my stuff, come back to the studio, I would record, and then around like 4 or 5 a.m., I would sneak back into Degrassi. They'd let me in, and I would go to sleep in my dressing room. Wow. And they, you know, eventually they found out what I was doing and they got really upset. But during that time, I was crafting all these songs, and I had a song that Omen produced it was me and Mickey Fax.
Right. Okay.
Mickey, you remember Mickey Fax, right?
Yeah.
And somebody else was on it, man. I think, but Dre had heard the song. And he had hit me like, man, I need proof that you wrote this. So he's like, I had to fax him the lyrics of the song.
Serious?
I had to send him a fax message, like from my mom's fax machine in her bedroom. I sent him a fax. And you know, at that time, Detox was going on, and it was just more like he had like just a camp of people, just I guess, you know, churning out ideas and just trying to get, you know, spark something. And I was flown out to record at Record One, which is a legendary studio. And yeah, I was in there for a while. I did a lot of work, me and 40. Always brought 40 with me. That was like a stipulation in my career. I wouldn't move without 40. So brought 40 and got to meet a lot of great people. Obviously got to work with Dre. It kind of all came to an end when Dre gave me, he brought me into his office. He's like, man, you're doing really good work. And he gave me a $10,000 check. And it was the most money I'd ever had in my life. And at the time I was in a relationship. So I got the money and I like called my girl and I flew my girl down to LA and I was like, oh, we could get a hotel. This is crazy. Like, you know, it was just a joyous moment for me. And I had missed studio, or I had done something wrong in the you know, just I had let my mind deviate from work and I had missed something. And you know, next thing I know, I was sent home, and that was kind of it.
That's crazy.
And it was a huge life lesson for me, you know. And I still have that. Actually, when Drake came out at the Forum, I brought him the $10,000 check because I had saved the actual hard copy of it, even though I got the money for it. They let me keep a copy of the check. So yeah, that was kind of my dealings with that very early on.
Okay.
And I had heard rumblings like, oh, all these people are here. And I think like I had met Snoop, and I had kind of wrote this song that 40 still has somewhere for Dre and Snoop. And we listened to it like not too long, a couple of years ago. It was actually hard. I kind of wish they had done it. But yeah, it was a great experience, a learning experience for me and 40. It brought us closer, and it just taught us about how this really works. And I think that set us on our own path.
So let's fast forward, like 2015, 2016, like Views, one of the most successful albums. The tour that you did in America was one of the most successful tours. And how do you feel about what you've achieved with Views and the reaction? Because it's a very pivotal point for you, you know.
It was one of those moments in my career where the album started to build and build and build, and you know, when anticipation starts to build, it can either result in like massive failure or massive success. And you know, obviously somebody's watching over us, and it resulted in massive success for us. And it was also just an opportunity for me to really take a lot of risks that I felt I was ready to take at that moment. And yeah, I mean, I was obviously really proud of it, from the title to the cover, to just the styles of music that I felt, you know, we introduced almost as a package. You know, it kind of started with Work, because Work came out before my album. And then, you know, progressed into One Dance, Controller, Too Good. But just, you know, the style of music that was making me happy at the time, because to be, you know, completely honest with you, I was having trouble figuring myself out in rap at that time. Right. I was a very defensive individual, you know, just coming off the situations that I had come off of. And I was having trouble trying to make, you know, rap music where I was able to peel back the layers. And you know, every time I'd make a song, you know, 40 is always very bluntly honest with me, and he'd be like, man, you sound like aggressive or defensive. And I was trying to figure out why, and I realized it was just, you know, reaction to my previous situation that had kind of happened before that. And so there was a time where I actually thought about taking all the rap off of Views and just making it like an album full of music that made me happy with melody. But obviously, you know, I know why I'm here. You know, I know who my core fan base is. And so, you know, towards the end of the album, I tried to execute as best I could on the rap end. And, you know, I still listen to the bars, and I know exactly where I was at. So they are great to me, and they are time markers to me. But, yeah, that's. I guess we'll get into more life after and how that situation progressed. But, yeah, Views for us was, it was surreal, you know? I mean, the numbers and all the things that we were able to achieve, it was an incredible time for us. And of course, you know, in true OVO fashion, we didn't celebrate at all. We just kind of went on to working on the next thing. So I mean, that was kind of that was kind of it. It was just another album to us, you know. It wasn't my biggest album by any means. It wasn't the one to me. It was just another, you know, another chapter in the story. But I mean, I'm very grateful for all the people that enjoyed it and supported it. And you know, whether people want to admit it or not, I mean, the influence that it's directly had on music, I feel, is very evident, whether people want to say it.
When you did One Dance, did you know what you was doing when you made that track? Because you used, you know, a portion of Kyla's track with Crazy Cousins. That's a UK underground classic out here. Like, I'm sure you've seen it go off in the clubs. You got Wizkid on there, you know, from Nigeria. It's a truly global record, because I think very few people have done what you've done in terms of mixing everything with the US and the UK and African sounds. But when you did One Dance, did you know this was going to be as big as what it was? Like, because it was the song of the year, you know.
It really all started with the Kyla record. You know, it was just a song that I played. I mean, we DJ our own parties just because.
Oh, sorry, how did you discover it though? Because that's like a UK funky sound that. Very insular in the UK. Yeah,
I mean, I listen to a lot of music, you know. And I have friends with great taste in music, so I've been personally putting that song in my own playlist and DJ set for like, you know, 4 or 5 years now. I know it's older than that, but even just playing it and having people, you know, what really set something off for me was having people in America come up to me and be like, yo, what's that song you just played? And I'd be like, man, people really like that song, you know, but they don't know it.
Yeah.
And so, I just my brain started working of like, you know, how can I maybe like utilize a bit of there's so many good pieces. So I introduced the concept to 85, and I said to him like, man, you know, if we can make a beat, it's not like I don't want to do a cover. I want to write a whole new song. I just want Kyla to serve as the bridge, or as a bridge to the next verse, or as a bridge to the hook. And he was like, all right, cool. And I had the beat for a while. I was trying to figure it all out. And yeah, at that time I had met WizKid through Skepta, because we did a remix to one of WizKid's songs together.
It's dope.
Yeah, and it just kind of all really fell into place naturally. And when it was all said and done, it was one of those moments, much like Hotline Bling. I just didn't really know how people were going to feel about it. And that was part of the reason why I dropped Pop Style along with it, because I was kind of like almost nervous, like, man, I don't, like, this is so different. Let me just make sure I drop a rap record so people know I'm still on my shit. And I remember Boy Wonder had walked into the studio one night, and he had heard One Dance. And he just looked at me and he's like, yo, that's gonna be the biggest song of your career to date. And I was like, come on, man. It's like, I don't, that's a lot to say, like, we hope it does well, but. And yeah, he was right. And he was right. And it was just, I think it was the perfect marriage of a lot of things. So many thank yous to Kyla for just being, so supportive. She came out to like South Africa and shot a movie with us for the song. And of course, WizKid doing his thing, and and just the entire UK for just supporting it, and the world for being open to listening to it. I love that tempo. I love that cadence, those melodies. That's the music that makes me happy in life. So it was great to be able to just to make something like that, and to shine light on a song from the UK that deserves it, because that is truly a classic. So.
With Pop Style, like, what happened with that? Because when I got it originally, shout out to Morgan, always talked to me about early, but it was Jay-Z and Kanye on it, and then they kind of weren't on it, like.
Yeah, I mean, I was dealing directly with Ye, and that's the version that he sent me. And that was, what we had talked about, which was like, he's like, man, this is like Pop Style featuring The Throne. This is huge. And I was excited. Obviously anybody would be excited to see them link back up. And then I didn't know what I was going to hear. So when I heard like Jay had 2 bars, I was like, all right, I mean, it is what it is. It's cool. I like that. It's a little intro, and then Kanye goes off. And then, I'm not really sure the details between that, how that conversation was miscommunicated, or what they were going through at the time, or what anybody felt towards me, or whatever it was. I'm not really sure. But next thing I knew, it just became a bit of an issue, and from there, I really, I don't waste too much time. So I just was like, all right, cool, I'll finish it. The song is, I mean, I can rap as good as anybody else, so I'll just go finish the song and put forth my own version, because I don't really nobody can ever dangle anything over my head in this business. I don't play that. So it was just it just needed to be done, and I did it myself, and both versions exist. So I mean, and when Kanye comes out to do it at the shows, it goes crazy. Yeah. And I know he was really upset, because at that time we were working together pretty heavy, and he really wanted to be on the record. But I mean,
on the Pablo tour, he said a lot of things that's well documented. But he was also saying about, before the last show, he was talking about how he was sick of not being able to do certain things or whatever, and he was saying everyone should just come together and make music. It's gone from label politics. Is it digital politics now that prevents things from happening?
I don't know. I think everybody has their own little things going on. I'm not really sure what he's referring to half the time, because in the same breath, I mean, I went from being working on a project with him to him sort of publicly on me and DJ Khaled for being on the radio too much, and
it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, obviously. But yeah, I'm not really sure. Everybody's got their own thing going on. And again, me when I hear that, I just I just distance myself from it. All right, if that's what it is, I don't really even understand the point you're trying to make, but you know, whatever it is that you're going through, you know, I accept it. I don't respect it at all, you know, because I feel like me and Khaled are both just like good people. You know, I'm not really sure why we're the target of your, you know, choice that you made that night. But again, you know, I accept what you're going through, and you know, I just go and continue working on my own thing, and you know, the more and more this progresses, the more and more I just feel like keeping to myself, because it's just so unpredictable. You never know like which way people are gonna go. So yeah, I mean, streaming is obviously the new is the record business. So yeah, I mean, I guess you could call it digital politics. That's kind of a good name for a song, actually. I might have to do that when I get upstairs.
Child's Play.
Yeah.
Another banger.
Thank you.
I was in New York recently. It's all over the radio.
Oh, yeah?
Every 5 minutes. So there's a line on there where you say, "Why are you acting light?" Like, what does that mean?
Why you
like,
what, sorry?
Acting light.
Oh, like act like I'm acting like I'm light skinned?
Yeah.
That line?
The line. Yeah. How did that come about?
That's just like that's just like sort of like something people, that's like very an American thing to say, like, oh man, you're being light skinned, like, you know, like, I guess they like say it's like emotional, you know. Right. So I think it's a ridiculous stereotype, but I was just kind of playing on the irony of it because I'm actually light skinned, so it just made me laugh, so I said it. But yeah, I mean, it's like a silly stereotype in, like, you know, Black American culture that like light-skinned guys are this way or that way or whatever. So it's just a little joke.
We do our thing though.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. I don't mind.
So, you know, when did you first experience racism? Because you come in from a dual heritage. Your father's Black, your mom's white. Like, it puts you in a predicament. You know, I found myself and other people have who come from like dual heritage backgrounds, but when was the first time you really noticed, like, you get it from both sides or one side more than the other?
Man, you know, I've really been grateful in my life to be born in Canada, and just the journey that I had growing up it was just a very accepting journey. You know, I always had friends from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life. We all get along. I never really noticed color, religion. We don't live like that. There's really not that much segregation in Canada, and especially in Toronto. You know, there's just so many. It's like a cultural mosaic, and I know I've said that time and time again, but it truly is. I mean, it's made up of so many, you know, beautiful people from beautiful places, and you get to actually learn, and you don't ever develop like hate. You know, the first time I really experienced it was when I got famous and like went to America, and people would challenge me like, I don't understand how it works, or like, oh, you're Canadian, you'll never understand like the Black American struggle, or you'll never that was the first time I really ever got challenged, and it was like by people that like, you know, I had met from America that were like even close to me at the time. And you know, if I ever feel anything, or if I ever feel like an outsider, it's usually because I'm not American. To be honest with you, that's when I feel like people are like, you know, against me, or they feel like I'm not part of like the. And I guess maybe it has something to do with the fact that, you know, like I have quite an eclectic makeup. You know, I am mixed, I am Jewish, you know, but yeah, I feel like you know, at the end of the day, I'll tell you, when it comes to everything else, I'm Black. You know, I am referred to as a Black artist. Like last night at that award show, I'm a Black artist. You know,
about the Grammys.
Yeah, like I am. You know, I'm apparently a rapper. You know, even though Hotline Bling is not a rap song, the only category that they can manage to fit me in is in a rap category, because maybe because I've rapped in the past, or because I'm Black. I can't figure out why. Just like I can't figure out why One Dance wasn't nominated. Maybe because they can't.
It's crazy.
I mean, well, it's just there's pop obligations that they have, and I fluked out. I fluked out and got one of the biggest songs of the year. That is a pop song, and I'm proud of that. You know, I love the rap world and I love the rap community. But you're right. I write pop songs for a reason. You know, I want to be like Michael Jackson. I want to be like artists that I looked up to. Those are pop songs. But I never get any credit for that, you know? And shout out, like, by the way, I'm speaking to you as a winner from last night. I won 2 awards last night, but I don't even want them because it just feels weird for some reason. It just doesn't feel right to me. Like, I don't, you know, I feel like almost like alienated or you're trying to purposely like alienate me by making me win rap or either just pacify me by handing me something, putting me in that category because it's the only place you can figure out where to put me. And remember, they don't decide the winners, but they do decide the nominations, you know, so they have to play it politically. And shout out to Chance for last night. Like I said, I'm speaking from a winner's point of view, and I'm so happy for him. I'm not talking about, and like, you know, I'm not angry about the way last night worked out, but when you ask me like where, like, do I feel like racism or do I feel it the same as anyone else? Like, yeah, I feel it. You know, I notice it going on and in its own places. But you know, thankfully, I get to be around the greatest group of people. My friends are from all over the place. You know, they're Lebanese. You know, I'm Jewish. You know, most of my friends are from the islands, from Jamaica.
English.
English. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, you know, we just don't really we don't really notice it like that. You know, until I start talking about the music business.
It's crazy as well because the leaders of each country. So, for instance, Donald Trump, he's on a anti-immigration tip. You know, there's the ban from people from certain countries, but then you got Justin Trudeau's Prime Minister of Canada, who's
like, by the way,
the total opposite.
I mean, he's like my hero, basically. But
how did it feel to be on stage in Manchester, in the UK, at the time when the Grammys was going on? Because a lot of artists wouldn't do that. Some people would be like, "Yo, I've got to cancel the show and go back over there." It's like, you know, you stuck to the tour. Yeah,
I mean, you know, I did it because that at the end of the day is what matters to me. That's real. That's real life, you know. And I was pitched by the Grammys to cancel those 2 shows and fly and go sit in the audience, you know, to lose, you know, to because they don't air the other rap awards on TV. So I would have left 30,000 people hanging, you know, to sit there and just be there for their own ratings, you know? And then the worst part is, like, I expressed myself like, man, you know, I'm really thankful that I was at those shows in Manchester because those were 2 of the strongest shows that we've had so far. And I text somebody from the Grammys and said, like, I'm really glad I stayed behind. You know, I really don't want to have this conversation about coming out there again. And I got a text back that said, blame it on Donald Trump. I'm not going to say who it is that I'm texting, but this is like the institution that we've been conditioned to think that this is the true reward for our accomplishments, for our music. And by the way, if you had a night like Chance last night, he deserves it. I mean, for his friends, for his family, for his collaborators, it's amazing when they champion you. But all I'm saying is, to kids that will be coming up in the future and might not get championed or might not get that moment, that's okay too. Because you have to realize what institution you're dealing with. You're dealing with a bunch of people that are just people at the end of the day. And they're either good people to the core or bad people to the core. And we'll never know, you know? But, I mean, yeah, I was really glad that I was in Manchester last night. And like I said, I'm speaking from the perspective of a winner. I won 2 awards. It's just, it really put it all into perspective for me last night. Like, thank God I stayed here and did what I'm supposed to be doing for the people that actually care about my music.
Who's Quentin Miller?
Quentin Miller. Quentin Miller is a kid that I was introduced to through Boy Wonder. Me and Boy Wonder were working on a project at the time. I had said to him, I really want I want to do a mixtape. I want to do it quick. I want to surprise people. and I want him to executive produce it. So we were working and we were like, going through the motions of, building a project. And he was like, yo, I got this kid. And, sometimes I send him beats and he just cooks up ideas. And he's like, yo, his ideas, they're good, He's like, they need work, but they're good. So yeah, at the time, I was like, all right, dope, let's collaborate. Let's line it up, And yeah, I started working with this kid, and I think we ended up doing about 5 songs together in total, a few of which were on that project and a few of which just made their way out. And yeah, I mean, he was a guy that I collaborated on music with, and I'm proud to sit here in front of you and say that, Meek Mill, at the time, due to some issue with Nicki, whatever it was, decided to create a narrative that I don't write my own music, because that was what was convenient for him at the time, and he caught wind of it. It's unfortunate too, because Quentin was being managed by DJ Drama and Don Cannon, who ended up really fucking his shit up, because they were just really just messy with the shit unnecessarily. But yeah, he decided to create this narrative that I don't write my own music. And the reason why I never felt necessarily pressured to sit down and defend myself right away or go do an interview is just because, I mean, anybody that was in those rooms, right, that worked on that project, or anybody that's been in any room with me, period, knows. First of all, knows that I am one of the best writers, period. That is what I do. That's what I'm known for. I mean, I go and write for other people. I write my biggest songs, my biggest hits. The massive majority of my catalog has all been written solely by me, which is a big feat, because music is a collaborative process. And at that given time, with those isolated records, they just wouldn't be what they were if it wasn't for me, I mean, if it wasn't for my pen and my contributions to that, and no, not taking away from him. I mean, we did great work together in a very small space.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it really just kind of blossomed into this thing where I became the poster child for ghostwriting, which is a huge conversation now in music. And if I was an evil spirit, if I had a different agenda, I could sit here and tell you how this shit really works. I could sit here and tell you 10, 20 people that are worse than me, that literally take everything and it's just a verbatim process but I'm not like that, When my peers get a record, I'm happy. It's great. Doesn't matter where it comes from. I don't care, But for me, it was a big deal because it just wasn't the truth, And like I said, but if I have to be the poster child for it, and if you choose to after finding out about that situation, discredit my entire catalog or my career, or you were gonna discredit me anyway, so you may as well just go forward with that. And I've come to peace with that, I mean, but yeah, I really when it came to that whole writing situation, I never felt the urge to have to defend myself, because if you ask about any of the biggest Drake records ever, I've done them all. Right. And if you ask about those Quentin Miller sessions, I was there, I was working. There would be no second half of Know Yourself, and the bars wouldn't be as good if it wasn't for me on any of those songs. And we sit down and we talk about cadences and we talk about which lines to do and whatever, and that's just what a collaborative experience is. And if people are that naive and they think that doesn't go on in music, then you're out of your mind, But because it's me, it was the first chink in my armor that people were like, oh, we got him.
DJs were happy. There's
Yeah,
people that carried away with it.
Well, and that's the thing. And
some DJs.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the thing too. It's it really made me realize how deep this shit really goes, because, there were like these references from our sessions when we'd work together.
Yeah.
No context to those references at all, but they existed, you know? And that taught me a valuable lesson as well, which is just like, man, I can't trust anybody. You can't leave the studio with nothing. You know? And like I said, like, you know, it was really DJ Drama that got a call from somebody higher up at that time. You know, he didn't have the backbone to say no to this person. And he was like, yo, my guy's getting roasted. You got to give up. You got to give him some ammo to keep, we got to keep Drake down. And that was really when I realized like how deep this really is. And yeah, I mean, that whole situation, you know, it was what it was. And I can sit here right now. You could interview Meek and you could ask him if he thinks it was worth it. I bet he'll tell you no.
How did it feel, you know, to see it play out with Meek? And I'm asking this now not because I'm trying to instigate or cause more trouble or anything, but just as a fan and as a DJ seeing it unfold, like for both artists, like yourself and Meek, it was kind of crazy because it was like, I think as fans we all thought everything was cool, and then Meek comes out, you know, and for you personally, though, how did that feel? Because you've been on tracks with him before, you know, the Amen joint and other stuff, you know.
I mean, it's just a pattern in my career, you know. There's just this one-sided switch that happens with people. I don't understand it. You could ask me about a bunch of people in this interview, and you could literally ask me what my problem is with them, and I'll tell you, I don't have one. You know, I watched him say that it was about posting an album or some show that I found out about the day before that I couldn't get to in time. It's not about any of that. You know, when somebody makes a decision to say, all right, everybody's supporting this guy, maybe I should be the guy to go against him. Or they just have a series of events that gets them aggravated enough to do that. That's what happens, you know? And unfortunately, on display for the world, that was a terrible, impulsive decision because you weren't ready. And in my mind, you know, I study the game, and not only that, but I'm a very calculated thinker. I'm sitting here thinking you're ready for it. I was sitting here, like my mind was going 1,000 miles a minute. I'm thinking this goes so high up that I'm about to see the craziest shit I've ever seen. I didn't know who was gonna be on a diss track with him or what he had ready. I thought this was like 3 months in the making, and I'm just like getting blindsided. And then when I dropped Charged Up, just to see just to kind of see what the preparation level was, I realized I was like, oh wow, you're not ready. This was like really your just emotions about something. I don't even know what it was, but this is just your emotion. Okay, now you know that was the moment where it was. I remember I was in the studio and. I was working on some beat. I knew I had to do something, you know. I knew I had to retaliate because I realized he was unprepared. And when you realize someone is unprepared, you have to strike. And I was in the studio, and it was like some kind of like rap beat, you know. I probably would have gone like 80 bars on it. And somebody that's very important to me said to me, listen, if you're gonna do this next move, you have to finish it forever, and he has to live with it forever. That means he has to hear it all the time. It can't be some. And I was like, you know.
Who said that?
I can't. I can't. It's great advice, though. A true champion said it. I'll put it to you that way. It's not some like it's not one of my friends. Like a real person that like goes to war and like wins all the time, like a true champion. You know. And that was when I just switched it around, you know. That was around like midnight, and this kid walked into the studio for the first time, and played a beat, and the beat was too slow. And I told 40, man, I like the drums, speed it up like about 15 BPM. And when he sped it up, he just sped the whole beat up. He didn't just speed the drums up. And that was when I just heard like, and I was like, oh man. I was like, all right, this is it. Yeah. And by 4:30 in the morning, the record was out, and that was pretty much it. It was over.
Back to Back was brutal. like line for line, you made it a club classic. Like girls sing along with it, you know.
But you know, the biggest thing was because I don't have real hatred for him. The key was like, first of all, my biggest focus the entire time was I cannot disrespect Nicki Minaj or use Nicki Minaj in any way other than to lift her up. I just, that's not in my character, you know? I didn't go the route of calling him a bunch of terrible names, and I just used wit. I just used wit and good writing, ironically enough. Great writing to just win that situation, you know? Obviously, yeah, the beat the beat was perfect because it lived in the club. It didn't live, like, it wasn't like, oh, have you heard this? And then you listen to it 2 times and you dismiss it. No, like, people have to, like, DJs have to take a hit when you're hosting a party because they can't play the biggest record of the night because you're standing there. Yeah. You know, it hurt. It hurt, and I wanted it to hurt, you know? Yeah. I really did. Because it wasn't just like, oh, man, you know, I could take a lot of things, a lot of criticism, a lot of, like, you know, negativity. People say terrible things about me, and that's fine. You know, that is just, unfortunately, this very sad generation we live in where, you know, people get off on, like, bullying people on the internet. And so I can take all that, but man, you really tried to, like, and you know how good I am at writing music, but you really tried to not only spin the entire narrative of my career, but like end my life and like take food from my family and like really try and like pretty much end it all. And you didn't even do it through music. You just talked or tweeted. It was like sickening to me. Like I had to really get revenge on that situation. And like I said, you know, like I respect revenge when it's warranted, and that was just warranted, you know, and it was what it was. And it's not something, like, again, it's not something that I'm proud of because it took just as much of an emotional toll on me. I mean, maybe not as much as it did on him, but it took an emotional toll on me. You know, it's just a lot. You know, you always got to hear about it, and you know, even just seeing people get so riled up off negativity, it didn't feel great, but it just was what had to happen at the time, and yeah, I guess that's just kind of rap is a sport, you know, and finally, I've always said the problem with rap is we never have a trophy at the end of the year or any stats to prove. Finally, it's just like a clear win, you know, and it you know, that was the only part about it that felt good, was like, I finally got to compete when I was doubted and win. And that was like, you know, that was pretty much the only positive of it. But the rest of it was just all trash, man. It was like, it was just embarrassing to witness, you know. And if he had like revealed some huge thing, you know, you would have heard a lot more people like peers of mine like chime in. I mean, you know, I think every single person that I've ever worked with or shared studio time with knows how hard I work, man. And like to try and discredit me for that is, you know, it's crazy. I mean, that's just what I'm known for. That's what I do, you know. So
Jay-Z and Nas, they said some savage things about each other, like, you know, and it's been brewing for years, like back to back. There's a lot of subliminals that was going on. Now they're friends. Now they work together. Do you think you'll ever see a situation like that of yourself and Meek, like time heals all wounds?
Well, Jay-Z and Nas said some crazy shit about each other. Yeah. I mean, they went really deep and personal. Yeah. Our thing wasn't that bad. You know, that's just not somebody that I ever really want to be friends with. You know, I think Jay-Z has a mutual respect for Nas. I just really don't have that level of respect for him because of his actions. So I'm not really looking to be friends or cordial. Like, for example, like I have respect for Ross because I have a history with Ross. With Meek, you know, I did a lot of things. Like I put you on your first tour. I flew to Philly to shoot the Amen video with you. I was always there. We were always supportive, and you just chose to flip. So it's just more like, let's just go, like, it's over, let's go on with life. You know, I even like out here, like I don't even perform back to back. It's not even like, it's not really, it's something that happened and it is what it is. Unfortunately for him, it's a part of history, rap history. But at the end of the day, it's really something that's over and done with. And yeah, I mean, like, I'm not really like, I'm not trying to make any songs or like be boys or none of that shit. Like, I'm good, I feel great. I'm happy with my friends. I'm happy doing my music over here. And, you know, it doesn't need to go anywhere from here because we look stupid if we keep it going. But it's just like, yeah, I mean, like, all blessings to Jay and Nas for coming together after all those years. And I can't predict what's going to happen in the future. But right now, like, nah, I'm good. Just be over there, I'll be over here, that's it.
How did you first hook up with Skepta?
I've been a fan of Skepta for a long time. Oliver really linked me and Skepta up. And, yeah, it was just really, really respected his movement, really respected his talent, felt like he should just be bigger than he was. I think that the best rappers in the world are in London. I just think the complexity and the cadences and the way they piece music together, like, I mean, from the grime scene to how now grime has evolved, where you got a guy like Giggs who has a huge club record, but you're still getting bars off. That's always what I've sort of like, that's been my formula for life, is like, okay, I'm gonna do the club, but I'm still gonna give you bars. I just really I really respect a lot of London MCs, and Skepta was just the first guy that I really got a chance to build with. And
Before
then
that, you were shouting at Sneak Bowl, like.
yeah, of course, yeah. See, I mean, I've been on it, even like, because even coming from Toronto, our worlds are so similar that like when Brixton and Pecky were beefing, right? We used to watch that and be like, yo, this is just like home. Like, the way they talk and like how it reminds us of Toronto. Right. So I used to sit and watch hours of just all these different guys and try and learn the inner workings of what was going on. Oh man, who is Sneak Bow's light-skinned brethren? Johnny Guns, remember him? All those guys, I used to just watch those videos and then from there, after all the wild videos, I started learning about like the real, just the real G's and not to say that those guys aren't talented, but I'm talking about like the real foundation of London rap. And Skepta was obviously the first guy I linked with, and our teams clicked, our vision clicked. He brought the WizKid record to me. We did it. And, I
think that was one of the dopest tracks as well. I think, again, talking about the whole international thing, I think, I ain't going to try and pronounce it. But
we don't want to butcher it, right?
But it's I think Skepta did one of his hottest verses, and the way that it was like the conscious, thing that he was saying, about the way people were portrayed on TV back in the day and everything. I think Drizzy, WizKid, Skepta.
But even big up to Skep for even just when he brought that to me, it really kind of I can honestly say I don't know if my mind would have been as open to a One Dance or a Controller if I hadn't have done that record with Skep and been like, okay, I rapped on that record, or sort of rap sang on that record. But yo, I could get on one of these tunes and actually this is our music. This is we're all intertwined. Afro beats, Toronto, the Jamaican culture, dance hall, London. So that I gotta hail Skep for that, because that was a turning point for me. And it's funny because I just recorded Hotline Bling in a hotel room right before I recorded that Skepta verse. So I did both those in the same night. But yeah, it was a big thing. And then, at the time, unfortunately, Skep's brethren had passed away, Lukey. Yeah. And we just kind of found solitude in each other. And, we were just supporting him, and, from Wireless to OVO Fest to making the OVO shirts for his boy. It was important to us, Skep was really important to us. And and then from there, I've known Shola Ama for 9 years.
Yeah, you talked about her early.
Yeah, exactly. I've known her just off a MySpace thing. We just used to talk all the time. And so just I was a fan, not that. I was a fan, man. I was a fan. Imagine Remix. That was my shit. Shout out to Craig David too. That was big influences. So, I remember I was out for dinner with Shola one night, and she's like, this is a while back. She's like, yo, I know, but yo, do you know about gigs? Do you know about gigs? Do you understand how many crazy legendary records Giggs has, and how ill he is at rapping? And that was when she played me Talking the Hardest for the first time. And my mind was just blown, man. I was like, yo, these guys are too good. It's crazy. And so, I just made it a point to shine light on as much as I can. That's what I'm here for, you know? I'm in a really, really blessed position, and people like try, again, because of all the bullshit, people try and like flip everything on me. Like, oh man, you're like, you got gigs on a record, you're just using the culture. It's like, nah, man, I'm showing love, bro, to these guys. You can ask Gigs. Like, you know, those are big moments for him and me. You know, I enjoy that. Like, I want to be remembered in London, in the UK scene as like, yo, Drake rated us, man.
You know, the craziest thing you did was on the Night of the Brits, which is, you know, it's like UK equivalent to the Grammys. You came off stage, went straight to the Section Boys show. That's crazy.
But that's just something that, like, you know, Skep was like, yo, I'm going to Section show. And I just performed with Ree. You know, and I told Ree, like, yo, I'm gonna meet up with you after. I'm gonna roll with Skep. You know, I was at the Section Boys show in the same outfit. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I mean, yeah, those are just things that are really important to me, man. Like, I love supporting, you know, like Section, the Young Gunners, Dave, AJ Tracy, you know.
How did Wanna Know come to your attention?
Man, it's a crazy story. There's these, like, I don't know what the YouTube account is, but there's just like this guy that compiles, he'll be like, oh, here's 50 songs you need to know from Chicago. Here's 50 songs you need to know from Toronto. So I usually always, like, I'm always watching the Toronto ones to be like, yo, who's got new tunes in our city, because I always pay attention. And then he did a London one. So I was watching it, and honestly, I was watching it, I had my phone like on my chest, and I was falling asleep, I had my headphones in, and I was like 38 minutes in, and the Dave song started. And I like kind of woke up, and I like looked at the screen, and it says the title underneath, so I exited out of it, and I went on and I listened to the song. I was like, yo, this song is so good. I don't know who the kid is. I'm praying that he's a good youth, you know? I'm praying that, because, you know, sometimes these guys, they get, you know, you never know who you're going to show love to. Sometimes people get weird on you, you know? So I don't ever want...
Even at your stage, even at your status.
Well, even worse in that sense, you know? It's just, I have a thing on me where, I mean, we'll talk about that later. I'll finish the Dave story first. I heard this record, and I hit Oliver right away. That's who I always, whenever I need to get in touch with anyone, I always hit Oliver. So I say, yo, this kid from London, you know, you gotta find out about it, because I really want the beat, see if I could do a remix. And then obviously, of course, Morgan ends up knowing who manages him, you know. So yeah, we just put it together like that. And then on top of it, the cherry on top was just that everyone was like, yo, that kid's a good youth. You know, he's a good kid.
He's dope.
Yeah, and so yeah, I just did it, sent it back to him. We played it on OVO Sound Radio. We put it up on Apple Music and all that, and it was great, man. It was just a great moment for both of us. But yeah, I mean, just to go back to what you were talking about, it's like, you know, I feel like sometimes I'm fighting against like how big it's all gotten for me. And when I have genuine intentions to always like big people up and show love, sometimes it gets twisted, you know? And I think that, again, just like the writing thing, there's like another thing that people tend to like just bring up as a negative about me, like, oh, you're taking from the culture and this, that, and the third. And it really, that bothers me as well, because it's like, people go so far, they reach so far. Like the other day, you know, I dropped the song with Gigs, and I'm seeing all this shit on my IG under like some random picture of people being like, you took this kid's flow or whatever, right? So I'm just like, yo, what's happening to me right now, you know? So I'm sitting there, I'm trying to read, like figure out who they're talking about. I find out who they're talking about.
Is this the extension guy?
I don't even think that's how you say his name. But yeah, that's.
I tried to practice.
They call him
extension.
X. So anyway, I go and I find what song they're talking about, you know, And I listen to it. I'm like, okay, I see where people could draw like this comparison off of like the first two lines, whether it be the cadence or the rhyme pattern or whatever, And I'm just like, yo, it's crazy that people think that after all this time, after all I've been through, that I'm the type of person to go some song that's on SoundCloud. It doesn't have like 2 plays. It has plays. He has his cult following, and go and think that I'm gonna like take that and make it my own. Like, I'm not stupid. I'm not like a person like that. So it just.
How's it feel to be at the top of the game now?
I don't know.
You've done it.
I guess sometimes like it's mixed feelings. Sometimes. There's nights where I go into the O2 and see all that love, and I feel like, the greatest emotions I've ever felt. And then there's nights where I just feel like, man, like, sometimes I feel like the most hated, or, sometimes I still feel like a huge underdog, like people just kind of almost are too scared to even like give me like support or credit, because they don't want to like because that's too like cliche. Like, I don't want to support that because we already know, so let's find the next thing. But I listen, I really enjoy making music. I make music for all the people that buy all these tickets and come out and party with me every night. I make music for my friends. I make music about real experiences. And I just am addicted to it. I can't, I don't like stopping. I go on vacation and I start going nuts. I don't know what to do with myself, because I'm just, it's just an inspiring time for us. And it's been that way for like 8 solid years now.
Why is More Life a playlist and it's not classed as an album?
The style in which it's being put together is based off of our concept that is OVO Sound Radio. You'll kind of hear it when you hear the project. I love the way it's put together, by the way. It's really put together as a seamless listen. It's almost like a radio show. Basically, I asked myself, like, man, what would happen if I just did an OVO Sound Radio, but every song was a new Drake song? That was kind of my idea for it. And plus, like, how it's being released, which... I mean, only that guy knows the answers, but yeah, it'll all kind of come to fruition. It's just more an evolution of the mixtape. It was kind of getting tough to be like, hey, I'm dropping a mixtape, but it's for sale on iTunes. It just kind of like, oh, so that's your album. And I really didn't want people to say, this is my next album. Right. Views was my album. This is something that after Views, I was just inspired. I wanted to, keep the music flowing. I want to keep people excited. Giving people the story to my life, and I don't do this too often. I don't sit with people. Like, I just don't. I don't really enjoy it. I like to just save it for the music.
With More Life, you got gigs on there. Massive look. That's like because Gigs is official out here. He's one of the realest. Right. He's lived it. He's done it, and he represents the streets to the fullest out here. So, what was it like working with him, like when you was putting a joint together?
I mean, me and Giggs more just became like friends. Like, Giggs is one of those guys that, if he takes a liking to you, it just, you just kind of have to build that vibe with him. And then, from him kind of knowing like, he was really into Baka, who's like one of my best friends who's on the road with me, but he liked his music. So we would talk about that. I would always big him up on like features, like he did like the song for Suspect called Wonder What. He did like a remix. I would hit him about that. Yo, I'm playing that. I would send him videos when we were playing Whipping Excursion in LA and people were going crazy. And it just kind of built from there, like a real genuine friendship. And then, we kind of got into this thing where it would be like, yo, like I'll send you something, and then he'd send it back and he'd kill it. Right. And then I was like, all right. And then every time I got in the studio, I'd be like, yo, I'm gonna send this to Giggs. Me and Giggs have like 3 or 4 songs. I mean, one's for his project. I got 2 on More Life, and then another one's just kind of there. But yeah, we're also, again, competitive rappers in a great way, you know? Like, Giggs is like the verse, like his verses are just too catchy and too good, and that's what I pride myself on as well. So we just have fun kind of competing and talking to each other about what, you know, what bars what bars we enjoyed from each other. And yeah, it was good. We just built a good rapport. It was natural. Everybody that I have on the road that's met him has made a point to come to me and be like, yo, Giggs is like a real G. Like, he's like a good, pure soul, you know? And that's tough, you know? Not a lot of people make a point to come and tell me that, like, every night when they meet people. So, yeah, I mean, he's just somebody that I support, and again, he's somebody that I feel like he should be one of the biggest rappers, as big as he could possibly get. So I'm just gonna do everything I can to try and make that happen, you know? And he's doing it all by himself, basically.
You know, with the music, you're killing it. It's like you got the Midas touch. Everything you're doing is popping, and you know, it's the same goes for OVO. It feels like a very real, you know, organization. I don't want to sound so corporate, but like what you guys do and the teams and the people involved. We're
a firm, like real, you know, like the old, like we're like an old English firm, like, you know, like the Britain, like the firms in Britain. That's what we consider as well.
How do you feel about the impact of OVO Radio though? Because I think out of, you know, Beats One, that's had the most impact as a show. Like, that was an appointment to listen. I know people who were like, yo, got tuned in, like, yo, did you hear that? Yo, it's on OVO Radio, you know? Like, it was like, I know people who play the rips from the show, like, just with the ident. So it's almost like that. It's almost like mixtapes from back in the day, like a Clue mixtape or something. It's like, it is crazy the impact that you're having, and it's truly international though. You know, I think hip hop before it's always been very, you know, US is the home of hip hop, US centric, but you guys have opened the doors to like the whole world, and there's a shift, I think, in the acceptance of music from other countries, and I think you guys have played a big part in it, you know.
OVO Sound Radio was like the first of its kind, you know. That's why, like, you know, Future set up the situation for us with Jimmy and with Apple, and yeah, it was just, you know, the OVO blog. I don't know if you remember the OVO blog that we used to run, but that used to be kind of like our headquarters. Yeah, that used to be our headquarters, and that used to be kind of where we could really share exclusive thoughts, exclusive music with people, and it became a hub to check in with. And we haven't had that in a while because of just how everything's just so accessible, and nobody, like, it's all so spread out. And I think OVO Sound Radio, like, you know, I think you summed it up perfectly. It's like you got to make an appointment to listen because you just really never know what you're gonna hear, and it's great feeling. I mean, we all gather around and listen. Like, even when, especially when we know we're playing new music, we all sit there and turn our phones on, no matter where we're at, and listen. And it just makes it fun again. It just reminds you of those mixtape days. It reminds you of those like exclusive like New York radio rap days, and or even out here like when they break a song on the radio. It's just it's something that's fun. It's something that brings people together. And I know now like they have a bunch of different people with different shows, and you know it's going really well for them. But I don't think anybody has the cachet of music to be able to continue to engage people with exclusives.
You don't hold back.
Nah. That's why I'm here. That's like, you know, I feel like that's the true blessing of OVO Sound Radio is, you know, we've got so many artists that are always willing to fire something off. You know, if it's not me, it's Party, it's Roy, it's Majid, it's Division. You know, and if it's not them, then it's just some like guys from our city that we want to be known, or it's like, you know, people that link us from London, like, yo, we have a new tune, can you just, and I like that, you know, people hit us up like, yo, I have a new song, can you play it on OVO Sound Radio? And it means a lot to get a text like that, because it's like, wow, you know, you could debut it anywhere you want, really. And it's nice to know that our platform is respected, and that me and Ollie always kind of told ourselves like, yo, those episodes have to be collectibles, man. Like someone has to put those all together one day and just kind of be like, yo, like these, like those are like moments in time, you know. And yeah, it's been a really exciting journey. It's a lot though, you know. I mean, it's every 2 weeks, so.
I do it every week.
Yeah, I mean, but you don't make music though. That's the difference.
True.
You got to play other people's music.
True,
we got to find find reasons to keep people listening.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's quite a task to take on, but you got to keep them engaged. You got to drop frequently, but it also has to be music that has longevity. You know, it can't just disappear in 2 or 3 weeks or in 2 months. You know, that's the goal. So.
OVO Sound Radio.
You just finished listening to the More Life interview. Shout out to DJ Semtex. That was recorded last week in London. At this time, just want to thank everybody for their continued patience with More Life. 40 and I are in the studio just working on all the last details right now. Drake is obviously on tour, but he's recording every night as well, so it's almost there. And all I can say is that the next radio show is going to be a very special one, so make sure you guys mark that on the calendar. As for today, we got a special guest mix coming up from Paris, Illinois. Shout out to Bromance Records. Shout out to Virgil. First, I'm going to play some music, so let's get into this. This is OVO Sound Radio, episode 38.